app development class. This is week 1, class 1. So in this class, we'll be developing a mobile app with backend. The mobile app will be using Flutter, while the backend will be using Laravel. So we will start the class by creating a folder. So we will ensure our folder structure is intact. So we create the folder. Inside the folder, we're going to have our front end folder, which will contain our Flutter app project. We have our backend folder, which will contain our Laravel project. So let's start by creating the folder. So on my desktop, I will create a new folder. I'll name it mobile app class. So naming it as mobile app class, I will drag it and drop on my Visual Studio Code, because we'll be using Visual Studio Code for the class. So this is the folder. So the next thing is to install Flutter, then which is for our front end. Then the next thing over that is to install Laravel. So let's create the first folder, front end. This will be for our Flutter app. So the backend will be for our backend. This one will be for our Laravel project. So as we have this backend, we also have the front end. So let's go further to create the front end. So inside this, I will, on this folder front end, I will right click, then click on open in integrated terminal. So the terminal here has opened. So the command to create Flutter app is Flutter create. So I want the Flutter app to be created inside the same folder. So I won't specify anything, I will just put dot, so I can have the Flutter app created in that same folder, inside the front-end folder. So I'll click enter. So we should ensure we are having internet connection. So if we have internet connection, then it will create the entire Flutter project for us, containing the Android, iOS, Linux, Mac, web, and Windows. As you can see here, it is completed. So this is how to create a Flutter project by typing the command Flutter create, then you put a full stop. That's if you want it to be created in the same folder that you have already created. But if you are yet to create a folder, then you cannot specify the name of the project in front of it. Then Flutter will now create a folder in that same name and add the entire project file inside. So now, since we already have the folder and we have the Flutter app, the Flutter files in there, then we are good to go. So the next thing we need to talk about now is the folder structure and every little things in this front-end folder. So since we are dealing with mobile app, I will be deleting this one for Mac OS. We don't need it. I will also be deleting the one for Linux. We don't need it. Likewise, tests as well, we don't need it. So I will be deleting the one for Windows. We don't need it. So we have this now. We are web. We might need web if for us to view, for in case if you don't have emulator, because I will be using emulator, that is the virtual Android device, to test the app. But if you don't have an emulator, then we'll be making use of web, so we can view what we have done. So I won't delete that. So I will have Android here. So we also have iOS here. So Android folder, I will explain that later. So we also have iOS folder for Android is for Android device, while iOS is for iPhone devices. So let's see what is inside this folder. So we have the front end. Inside our front end, we have the dart tools, which are the tools that Laravel use, which the Dart is a programming language like for Laravel framework. So everything in there, don't touch it. We are not going to be working with anything inside there, just leave it the way they are. So we also have this idea, we don't need it, just leave it the way they are, don't touch it. Likewise, the Android folder and the iOS folder, you don't need to modify anything there. At long run, when we get there, when you want to modify anything there, I will tell you exactly what to modify and what they are used for. So inside this lib, this is our library. This is where all our screens will be created. We have the lib. Lib is the main folder where we'll be having our entire screens, all our UI, our user interface that we'll be creating for the mobile app. This is where they will be created. So we also have this web. This web contains the folders and the files that will be dealing with any logic to run our mobile app on the web, because Flutter supports web. So we have this one as well. You don't need to modify or delete it, just leave it the way it is. So the same thing as the metadata. These are the data that generated while we are creating the Flutter app itself. So also leave it. We also have an analyze option. Don't touch it, leave it the way it is. So we also have the front end. It's also auto-generated. So it tells about the Java module we are using and the version of the XML we are using. So just leave everything there the way they are. The library is that. The Flutter, the library is we are using Flutter plugin and the that's package. So leave it the way they are. So the most important thing in this folder is this box spec log and box spec.yam. The box spec log, we don't touch it. It's auto-generated. So whatsoever we want to do, this is also untouched. You won't need to be touching them. What we'll be working hand in hand with is this box spec. And the box spec, inside the box spec, it explains everything regarding our project. So it gives our project a namespace. So the namespace of our project is what? Front end. So description of our project is a new Flutter app, which we want to create a what? We want to create a we'll be needing to create a fintech app. So at long run, after this class 1, which we are just explaining the folder structure of Flutter. So after we are done explaining the basic folder structure, then we can move to the back end. Then after the back end, then we come back to the front end, whereas we can modify all what we are seeing here. So this description, we are going to modify it and we're going to give it a basic description about fintech app. So publish to this one is when you want to publish the app into Flutter spec library. So we want to do this, just leave it the way it is. So we have version. This version is used for App Store and Play Store. So to identify the number of builds or the number of versions you have we just released. So the environment, we have the SDK version. This SDK version varies. What you are seeing here might not be what you will be seeing because of the version of SDK that we are using. So we are I'm using the version 2.19-44.6 beta. So any project I will be creating, they will be having this version less than 3.0 because my version is not up to 3.0. So everything in my project here, they are using this version. So we have the dependency, we have the Flutter SDK. So these are the dependency because everything we'll be doing will be using dependency libraries. You'll be using library just like this Cupertino library for icons. So we also will be using icons. We'll be using icons. We'll be using many dependency from Flutter. So these libraries or these dependencies assist us to make our work more easier. So we also be using those dependencies. So we have this one as another dependency for the project. So we have this use material design. This is on default. You don't need to touch anything here. So at long run, where we need to use assets, we need to uncomment this. If we want to bring in image, that PNG, JPG, any other assets into our project, so we have to uncomment this. So at long run, we are going to uncomment this if we need images or whatsoever. So if we want to make use of fonts, we are going to uncomment this as well and specify the font we will be using. So this file is most important file in our project. So after this file, then we have the readme. This readme is just in the normal to document what our project is all about. So that is what the readme is all about. So you can as well modify it and give the details of the Fintech app, the Go app we want to create. So if we go back to the library, so inside the library, I think we have this main.dat. The main.dat is a file that when we click on the bug or when we click to see what our project is all about, that is when you want to run it, the very first file Flutter look for in our project is main.dat. So it's compulsory for us to have this main.dat inside this lib folder. If we don't have it, the project will not run. It is compulsory for us to have this main.dat, because when we want to run a project, we want to run our application, the first file the Flutter will look for is the main.dat. So inside the main.dat, there is a main function. This main function is what we use. Flutter will look for after saying the main.dat. It goes straight to the main.dat and look for the main function. If the main function is also missing, then the project will not run. So once it sees the main function, then it looks for the main the run app function inside the main function. So the run app will now trigger and run the interface inside it. So today we're not going deep to explain the code. We are just explaining the folder structure. So this is the first structure we have for this. So inside Android, so we have this Android folder. Inside the Android folder, we have the app folder. The app folder consists of two items. We have the SRC and we have the build.gradle. This build.gradle is what we will be using to modify. We are going to modify this when we want to publish our app to Play Store by changing the SDK compile fashion, by changing the main SDK fashion, and by us ensuring that our build type is on release. Right now it's on debug. So we are going to modify it and add it at long run and add many things inside here at long run. So don't be confused of what you are saying here. It's very user friendly. You will understand later. So if we check inside SRC as well, we have the debug. So ignore it. This debug is not what we'll be using because we have the Android manifest. This one is not what we'll be using. Inside the main folder, we also have Android manifest. So this Android manifest is what we'll be using mostly. So we'll be bringing in the our permissions. We'll be using permissions. For example, as you can see, it's giving me suggestion, permission to use internet. So permission to use all those things. If we want to, there are some things we want to ask from user. Certain permission we want our app to use. So this is the place whereby we'll be including those permissions. So here as well, this Android label is the name of our app. So let's say we want to develop Go app. So this is any name we put here, when the app is installed, this is the name that will appear on the user's phone. So this Android label is the name that will appear on the user's phone. So Android name is the name of the application that we've created. So it's stored in the Android folder somewhere. So we have this as the icon. This icon is the icon that will appears on the user's phone when it is installed. So as you can see, it has its main activities that will launch the app. So others just don't get carried away. They are user friendly. We're going to explain along the line in this project. So others like build.gradle as well. We'll be using this build.gradle as I explained. So there's another build.gradle outside the app folder. So we have this build.gradle outside the app folder. So which we hold the Kotlin version that we are using, which should be a latest version of the Kotlin. If you are using Java, then you should have Java, but most Flutter app these days, Flutter projects, they make use of Kotlin, and the version of the Kotlin should be the latest version. But if you use the same commands that I use, then it will create the project using the latest Kotlin version that will work in line with your Flutter SDK. So we also have this repository where we are getting our repository from our dependencies. So it's from this Google and Maven Central. So we have this dependency that we are using, which is the build Gradle and the JetBean. So all this comes when we created the app. So at long run, when we want to use Firebase or whatsoever, we also be adding more things inside here. So don't be carried away. Just stay with me here. Any other thing that I did not explain here, just ignore them. When we want to make use of it, I will explain it in one by one. So the same thing in iOS folder as well. So we have the Flutter. This Flutter contains of majority of what the S code we use to identify our Flutter app. The same thing as runner. This runner is what give our Flutter app the entire details of for S code, such as this info playlist, app delegate, and whatsoever. So when we get there, we will explain it one after the other what it does. Because if you are using MacBook, then you will be able to create and run iOS app. But if you are using Windows, it means you will only be able to debug or run only Android app without iOS, because you cannot develop iOS or run Android iOS app using Windows. It must be MacBook. If you are using MacBook, then you can debug, you can run both Android and iOS. Windows only can run Android. MacBook can run both iOS and Android. So this is just the folder structure and files inside the Flutter project, which is our front end. So after this front end, then we move to what? We move to class 2, where we will be installing our backend folders. Our backend folder will also be here, which is what? Laravel. So see you in the next class.